Welcome to Employment class. Today we look at Unit 1, Section 2. Unit 1 is on the nature and meaning of employment law. Section 2 is on employment law and labor law. We are now going to consider the difference between the two. Session objectives. By the end of this session, you should be able to clearly distinguish between employment law and labor law. Labor law. Now let's deal with labor law. So labor law generally applies to the work environment. It applies to the work environment that are governed by Industrial Relations Act. So it is generally applies to work environments that are governed by the Industrial Relations Act. Now, if you look at the nature of labor law in that environment, the employees are subject to collective bargaining agreement and is a member of the union. So we are talking about the fact that here the employee belongs to a particular union, and for that matter they are subject to collective bargaining agreement. Labor law regulates the relationship between businesses and union. So labor law does not deal with individuals. It basically deals with the business and the trade unions of the employees. So you have the business on one hand, then you have the union. So the relationship between the two is what labor law governs. Now, what are the issues that could be addressed by labor law as far as the relationship between businesses and unions are concerned? The issues that they may address include labor strike. So labor strike, when there's the strike issue, or when the employees go on strike, it is the labor law that will regulate or will address that issue. When you also have organizational disputes, it is the labor law that will address this particular issue. For instance, most of the time you hear UTAG is on strike. You hear UTAG is on strike. The law that will regulate that activity is the labor. Let's now distinguish it from employment law. So employment law basically deals with the individual employment contract. Individual employment contract, and this individual is neither a member of a union or bound by any collective agreement. So the employment law governs the relationship between employer and employee relationship. So Kofi works for Mr. 2. Kofi works for Mr. 2. And Kofi is not a member of any trade union, and Kofi has also not signed any collective bargaining agreement. The law that will regulate the activity of the relationship between Kofi and Mr. 2 is the employment law. Now, the issue that employment law seeks to address will be the issue of the wages, the working hours, the bonuses, the obligations of Kofi, the obligations of Mr. 2 being the employer. So the labor law imposes duty on Mr. 2, which is the employer, to ensure that the workplace is safe for Kofi to work. So the employment law touches on individual and the employer, especially their relationship. Now, let's look at the key difference between them. With employment contracts, which relate to employment law, it can be either oral or written. So employment contract should be either oral or written. It means that it's not necessary that it should always be in writing. You can put it into writing, or it can be oral terms as you normally see in our daily activities. Collective bargaining agreement cannot be oral. That's agreement between trade unions and businesses cannot be oral. So that's labor law. In terms of labor law, which deals with the relationship between businesses and union, that agreement should necessarily be in writing. You should also note that employment law and labor law have similarity or may address similar issues. They may have similar laws and cases and procedure. They may have similarities of issue, but the laws, cases, and procedure for both are different. It means that there may be points of intersection between labor law and employment law. However, the laws, cases, and procedure that governs these laws are different. By way of summary, in this session, we have tried to distinguish between employment law and labor law. Thank you and have a nice day.